Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name is Joe. Today I am continuing my series on Old School Tactical Volume 3 from Flying Pig Games, designed by Shayne Logan. This is a Mark H. Walker game. And I am playing the Hellbent expansion. So this is the second video of this particular series and the third overall in the Old School Tactical Volume 3 series, which is itself part of the larger Flying Pig February feature of the month that I am running currently here as I'm doing this video in February of 2023. So as I mentioned, this is the second part of a two-part look at scenario number 10 inside the Hellbent expansion for Old School Tactical Volume 3. It is called Action at Pot Pot, and it is based on action of January 16th, 1945. On Luzon in the Philippines. This is the Japanese general is sending a detachment of tanks out to counterattack the U.S. Army, which is advancing on Luzon. This is the Shigemi detachment, featuring 4 Chiha, 4 Ha-Go, and 2 Te-Ke tanks, taking on American forces of the 25th Infantry Division. And the first 4 turns were in the first part of the video. This part will be the second part, which will cover turns 4, 3, 2, 1. We do count down in this game, so we started at turn 8 and we count down to 1. There is the possibility of a turn 0 as well. We'll get into that should it occur. So this would be turn number 4, and the Americans are getting some reinforcements here in this turn, and they're actually on the map already. They're right here on the very border. It is an M4A2 Sherman tank, 2 of them, in fact, and also Sergeant Boone, who is an armor leader. So these are big, tough, frontline tanks for the United States, as opposed to Japanese tanks, which have thinner armor and smaller guns. So though the Japanese currently, they started with 10 tanks, they lost one of the tanks already. An M3 Stuart knocked it out, and so they are down to 9 tanks. We have 2 M3 Stuarts and 2 M4A2 Shermans for the Americans. So without further ado, we are going to get rolling here. First thing we do is deploy our reinforcements. That is done. Then we would attach leaders and weapons. That is also taken care of. We're not changing anything up. And then following that, we would do smoke counters, which we do not have any. There are no scenario rolls in this particular scenario. Then we have our free rally/bog roll. So if you did watch part 1, you saw me try to unbog this tank over here. But just to kind of go over that again, the way we do this is we roll 1d6 for the Japanese, and they get 1 attempt per turn. On a roll of 3 to 6, the unit's free and may move. Roll 2, it remains bogged. Roll 1, and the vehicle will be permanently immobilized. We roll to 2. That is the second straight turn that has happened. They remain immobilized, or bogged, which is the same thing. But they can recover from that, and they only get to attempt that once, which is unlike a rally. For an infantry unit may attempt to rally by using an impulse point during the turn. They only get 1 shot at this for the tank. So we now will roll for initiative. We roll 2 d6s for each side. White is Japan, black is the United States. We have a 10-10 tie. We re-roll. There is no tiebreaker. You roll until there is no tie. This time we get a 10 for the U.S. and a 3 for the Japanese. That means the United States has initiative. So you get a certain number of impulse points based on a die roll. The Japanese get to roll 4 dice, but they did take enough casualties that they're going to get a -1 DRM on this roll. And that's not a great roll for them. They get 9, -1 is 8. So the Japanese will start this turn with a measly 8 impulse points. Considering how many units they have on the map, that is not much. We'll roll for the Americans. They are now they get 3d6, and we'll add 2 to it. And they get 8, and they add 2, so they get 10. So they actually have more impulse points than the Japanese. That is the first time that has happened in this game. So they are at 10. The Japanese are at 8. The U.S. has initiative. That means they get to go first. And the first thing they're going to do is they're going to take this M3 Stuart right here, and they're going to take a pop shot at this tank right here. This Chiha, as you can see, it's got an acquired marker on it because they already fired at it last turn. And we will be firing same unit, same vehicle. It makes it an acquired target, and acquired target modifier is +1 to the 2-hit die roll. So I went over this in the previous video, so I don't want to dwell on it too much, but when you attack an armored fighting vehicle, you have to roll a 2-hit first, and a 2-hit for the, it's based on the range in hexes, and so they're only 3 hexes away, 1, 2, 3, so that is close. So the Stuart has a 2-hit of 7 at that range, so you roll 2d6. We do get a +1 on the roll, so effectively we need a 6 or higher to hit this sucker. And we get an 8. So they are hit. Now we get to roll for damage. You got to calculate it out. The firepower of the Stuart is a 3 at this range. It's 2 at a longer range. So it's 3. Their armor, it's front armor, because they are facing that way. That's what the red triangle indicates, is 3. So it's 3 versus 3, which gives you a 0. There are some die roll modifiers that actually we won't be adjusting at all, because none of them apply. It's not moving fire. There is no leader. There is no height advantage or disadvantage. It's not an ambush. Nobody's shaking it. It's not a melee rather. No one's a lead, etc., etc. So we are rolling 2 dice, and we're rolling on the 0 column on the vehicle combat table, and we rolled an 11. So let's take a quick look here. Here's 0. 11 is X. X means they are destroyed. So when you destroy a tank, you flip it over and make it a wreck, which I've neglected to do with my previous kill, which was here. So let me put this down here. So there's a wreck there. Now we get to roll to see if the crew survives or not. So what we do here is crew survival. When a vehicle is destroyed, there's a chance for the crew to survive. Owning player rolls 1d6. On a roll of 6, the crew survives. So we're going to roll 1 die for the Japanese. Got a 3. Crew is dead. So the crew is dead. That's 2 casualty points. Pushes the Japanese number up to 7. If they get to 10, that will be another 1 subtracted from their impulse roll. So we give a fired marker to our M3 Stuart here on the bottom. The top guy has not moved. We take 1 impulse point away from the Americans. They are at 9 now. And it is the Japanese turn. So the Japanese probably not thrilled to have that happen. But what we're going to do here is we're going to do something that we had not done yet before, and that is we are going to try, actually 1, 2, 3. But if we do that, they're going to be subject to machine gun fire. So you can put them on a tank and they can ride on tanks. Infantry can ride on the tank. If they do so, then you basically end up with it's called rolling cover. So they would have rolling cover because they'd be on the tank. Or we do have a machine gun here on the US. So we could attempt, and I stress the word attempt, get here. This is a control hex. This is one of the victory points, victory locations rather, for this particular scenario. So we could have Sergeant Miyake here with his 2 rifle squads. They are equipped with a light machine gun. We can attempt to make the run here. They have a machine gun here as well. They also have a rifle range of 4. So they would be able to attack with a firepower of 7. So that's rough for the Japanese. Now the other part of this is they really wouldn't be able to hit them if they go here. They only have a movement point of 3. So they could get to here. And then from here, going up this line, they would be subject to the machine gun, but not the rifle. So let's do that. So it's called a group move. It costs 2 to move into the shell holes. and then 1 into the palm trees here. So they're going to get them moved, but the Americans are going to fire at them. So the Japanese lose 2 impulse points to go to 6. The Americans will go to 8 because it does cost you an impulse point to fire on opportunity fire. So our heavy machine gun here, which is crewed, so it has a crew, although the crew, I don't have a crew counter with it, but it does have an inherent crew with it. It's got a range of 12. The range is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so it's half. They are 3 firepower. They have a defense of 3. They could actually fire themselves now that I look at it. But they have a defense of 3. And so that's going to be a wash. The palms will give them a defense of 1. So that actually makes it a negative 1. On the infantry combat table, it will be a negative 1. Because they do get so they don't have a degraded line of sight because shell holes do not degrade. So the only thing we're talking about is a -1. So -1, and we get, let's see, -1. And we don't get any other thing. No moving fire, no attached leader. Yeah, so we're just going to roll here on the -1, and we need a 12 to kill them, but anything 9 and above would inflict a casualty. We got an 11, so an 11 on the -1 gives you a C-B. Now, the Japanese cannot be broken or shaken, so the B won't matter, but the top unit will take a casualty. And when a unit with an attached leader takes a casualty, you have to move to check to see if the leader himself has been injured. Leader casualty roll, so you roll a d6, and if it's a 1, he's been killed. It's a 5, so he is not injured or otherwise debilitated. The Japanese take another casualty point. These guys get marked as fired on the machine gun. And we, because they took damage, they're halted. Otherwise, they could have, well, that was their third. That was 3 anyway, so they were done moving. Never mind. So it now goes back to the Japanese. Let's take Sergeant Nagashima. He's got a tank killer. Let's see if we could get him up a little closer here. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, no, they do move 4. So 1, or 1, 2, 3, 4. So they'll move here. We'll stick a moved on them. That's only 1 impulse. They're down to 5. Go back to the Americans. Yeah, so we're going to take Sergeant Avila here. He's got 1 unit with a bazooka. And we're going to just move him. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, their range on their machine gun is only 6. So he should be safe to do this. 1, 2. We'll slap a moved on him. Go down to 7. Back to the Japanese. We need to move first. The range is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It nicks this, so there will be a -1 degrading on the firepower. That is a Hago. The Hago's firepower is a 2. At the range they're at, they need an 8 for the 2 hit number. So we'll roll for that first. And we got a 10, so they do hit. They do hit. So that's going to be 4 because this is a firing action. And then we roll again for the damage. So it's a 2. We subtract 1 because of the degrading line of sight. So it becomes a 1, and their armor is a 2. They're facing this way. Their armor is a 2. It's front armor. Front armor on a Stuart is a 2. The flank armor is also a 2. The point is, it's 1 minus 2 is a -1, so they're on the -1 column. And they get no modifier. Oh, they get a +1 on the dice roll for their leader. And they rolled a 9 plus 1 is 10. So a 10 on the -1 is a D-S. So that's damage and possible shake. So we roll one die for the damage to see what it is. It's a 1. A 1 is minor. 1 or 2 is minor damage. Damage is minor, no effect. Okay, so that works for them. This is one of our victory locations. So in theory, I would want to move one of my rifle squads or both up into that spot. But we're going to wait. We're going to wait. And I'm going to use Sergeant Boone, and I'm going to activate both of his tanks. So it's a group move. It's going to cost us 2 impulse points to take us down to 5. And we're on a road, so that would be 1 to go here, 1.5. Then we have to get off the road because there's 2 rifle squads here, and we can't go through there. So it's half, 1, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. And then we can fire. Actually, this is considered flat, I believe, in this special rules. No level 1 hills, yes. So these are all, this is flat. So actually, the Sherman, let's look at the Sherman's data card. So this is the data card for the Sherman. So it has a maximum range of 18. So he can actually take a shot at that tank from where he is right now. So why not do that? It's a long range shot. The firepower is only a 5. But he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 away. So that's an 8, and the attack would be a 5. So we're going to do it. We're going to shoot at him. So to hit, we need an 8. And we get an 11. So that is a hit. Now, looking at the distance, our firepower is a 5. They have a defense of 2. So that is the 3 column. And they do get a +1 on the roll for having a leader. So we are in the 3 column. This is dangerous for the Japanese. And we get an 8 + 1 is 9. A 9 in the 3 column here. So let's take a quick look. 3 column, 9, X, destroyed. So again, we roll for our crew. And we rolled a 1, so the crew survives again. And then we have to roll for Sato. So Sato, 1 to 3 would kill him. And it's a 2, so he's actually killed. He's killed, but the crew actually survives. So let me grab a crew counter. They have 2 crew here. And they get another casualty point, so they're up to 9, and the tank as well. So they are at 10, actually. They're at 10, which unfortunately for them also means that they will lose another impulse point. So that costs the Americans 2. They are down to 5. So the tanks are not doing well. Things are not going well here for the Japanese. So let's see. They need to make some moves here. So let's take Lieutenant Aramoto, and we're going to have to brave some of this machine gun fire and see if we can do something to get into a position where we might be able to do something useful. So they only have a 3 movement factor. So they'll go here, and that does make them vulnerable to the attack from the machine gun. So the machine gun's going to attack. They lose 2 for the move. The Americans go down to 4. So the Japanese are at 2. The Americans are at 4. This American machine gun's going to fire. So again, it's a 3. Their defense is a 3. They are in open terrain. They get a -1 for the line of sight. So it's going to be the -1 column for the attack. And they get a +1. They don't get a +1 because the leader is actually not attached to the machine gun. They get an 8. 8 in the -1 is a broken, so that's nothing. So now these guys are marked used because they've done all their actions. These guys can continue their move. So they're just going to move up to, Well, no, maybe they won't. They're going to move 1. That's 2 and 3. And so they have moved. And we'll stop. Now it's the Americans' impulse again. We're going to shoot at this tank here. Now he does have a degrading line of sight there. So again, we're firing with our Shermans over here because they could fire twice since they did not move. So again, we need an 8 to hit. And let's see what we got. We got an 8. So they hit. Now, firepower will get reduced by 1 for the degraded line of sight. So that becomes a 4. Their armor's a 2. So we're looking in the 2 column. And they do get a +1 on the roll for the leader. 2 columns, so 8 becomes a 9. On the 2 column, a 9 is destroyed. So, actually, this is only one of the tanks firing, now that I think about it, because I didn't say it was a group fire. So we're going to mark the top guy with the leader as being used, which leaves this other guy available. And instead of having spent 2 for that, we only spent 1. So they're at 4 now because I took 2 last time. So they're at 4. This is destroyed. So that is now a wreck. Roll for crew survival. 3, the crew is killed. So that's 2 casualty points. So they're now at 12. The Japanese are not doing well here. So now it's their turn. Let's move these guys up. So I'm going to take Sergeant Hasibi here. They can move 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And stop. Let's move our rifle squad up here. That's 1. And then the Japanese will use their last one on our sapper here. They can move pretty much without any problems because the Americans already did their action. So they'll go 1, 2, 3, and stop there. And we'll put a moved on them as well. So the Japanese are done. The Americans are down to 3. That'll become 2 because we're going to move the other rifle squad here. They're now down to 2. They get 2 more actions. We'll take our other Sherman and let's move him. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and stop here. Moved. Now, in theory, the Japanese could have fired if they had any actions left because they're in range of this tank. But they don't have any actions, so that leaves only... That's the last American action, I believe. And so we are done. So that is the end of turn number 4. And we are on to turn number 3. Just to remind, we have these luck cards. The Japanese have Crazed, which will give them a +3 firepower in a melee if we can get in a melee. The Americans have Suppressing Fire. At any point during your impulse, place a used marker on any single enemy squad or crewed weapon. Just a reminder that we do have those in hand. We have not used them yet. So let's get this going. The first thing we're going to have to do is try to see if we can unbog our tank over here. So again, basically a 3 to 6 will free them, a 2 will keep them bogged, and a 1 will be permanent immobilization. And it's a 3, so he's finally free. Finally free to do something. All right, so initiative rolls. We roll all 4 dice. Black for the Americans, white for the Japanese. 8 to 7, U.S. wins initiative. Now we'll roll for the Japanese impulse points. They get 4d6, but they're going to take a -2 from casualties. So they get 3, 8, 9, minus 2 is 7. They're getting killed on impulse points. You roll 4d6 and you end up with 7 impulse points. That is ridiculously bad. Now we'll roll for the Americans. They get 3d6 and we'll add 2. They get 15 plus 2 is 17. So yeah, the dice are not the friend of the Japanese in this particular scenario, at least not lately. Okay, so moving on. All right, we go into our turn now. Americans have initiative. They also have 17 impulse points. What shall we do here? Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to take our tank and our tank here, our Sherman, and we'll fire at this guy. So the distance is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We do have degrading line of sight there. So at 7, we need a 2-hit roll of 7, and our firepower would be 6. If we move, we would take -1 on the roll. So I think we're gonna go for a shot here. So we're gonna take a shot here. And we rolled an 8, which means it is a hit. It is a hit. So their firepower at this range is a 6. Hago's armor is a 2. Actually, their firepower gets degraded to a 5, so it's a 3 column. They get degraded because of the line of sight. No moving fire, no leader, none of that. So no adjustments on the die roll. We're just in the 3, 4 column here. And we rolled a 10, and that's going to kill it. So that is another destroyed tank. So let's put a fired marker on here. And this guy has been destroyed. There's already a wreck there, so I'm just going to move it off. We'll roll for crew survival. A 2 means the crew is killed as well. 2 more casualty points for the Japanese. They're up to 14 now. Things have not really gone well for Japan. I'm almost of the opinion that it is time to just go with a Banzai. Well, we still have 2 more turns after this one. Maybe I shouldn't Banzai just yet. Try and bring these 2 up a little closer, so when we do go Banzai, we'll go full on Banzai with as many units as possible, because all our leaders are kind of, we have 1 here, but we have a nice cluster here. So if I did do a Banzai charge, these guys would go, you know, in this direction. But we also have 2 of our control hexes are over here. M6, which is here, and L5, which is here. So these 2 are control hexes, as well as this one, which is actually open if we can get somebody there. That's the tricky part, because the Americans have a machine gun right here. So I guess we will hold off on the Banzai charge for the moment. We're going to try to do some rolling cover here with our Chiha and our Sapper. So they can't, because they're not in the same hex to start. So scratch that. We cannot do that. We're going to have Akamoto take a run, or Arimoto rather, take a run at this hex. They have to get to it. Okay, so Arimoto is going to go. It's going to be a group move, which is going to cost the Japanese 2 impulse points, bringing them down to 5. We're going to go with the shell holes here. We probably should go. Well, here's the thing, though. If we go here, we're going to be. Well, you know what? We have. This is rough, man. This is really rough. We're going to go into the shell holes because this will block their line of sight. So that's 2, 3, 4. So they are now in this building. And just to show that we're not happy about them being in this building, we're going to do a group fire here. And I never took the used off of that machine gun. So Lieutenant Quinn here is going to have his rifle squad and his heavy machine gun fire on these guys now that they've moved into there. So they're in this, it's a light structure. So light structure gives you a +1 on defense. So we're going to have a 4 firepower from the squad, and a 3 from the machine gun is a 7. Their defense is going to be a 3, plus the 1 for the structure, so it's 4. 7, 4 is a +3. And they're going to get a +1 on the roll. Yeah, so they're on the +3 column, and they're going to get a +1 on the roll. And they got a 10. I'm telling you, man, the Americans are rolling like mad here. So a 10 on the +3 is an elimination. So they are going to kill they're going to kill the squad that Lieutenant Aramoto is attached to. And so now we have to roll to see if he survives the casualty. So if the unit is destroyed by an X result, a1d6 roll of 1 to 3, and the leader is also killed. So we're going to roll for the Japanese. They need a 4 or higher. They got a 5. So Aramoto survives, but this rifle squad has been killed. So he's now down to 1 rifle squad. He'll attach to that unit. They do have a machine gun. So that did cost the Americans 2 to fire. They get, that's 2 more casualty points. The Japanese are now -3 on their roll going forward. But we are close enough now that maybe we can get at this from the Japanese side, that is, get at this guy here. So they get a fired marker. So it's back to the Americans, and let's see, what do we want to do? I'm going to take one of these rifle squads, and we're going to try to close up on here to get there before they do, or they do. So we have 1, 2, there's 2 tanks there, so they can't go there. 1, 2, because road is still 1 for the foot guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, and they don't really have anybody in range. And I believe, yeah, there's a structure there, so that's going to block line of sight from these guys. So they're okay here. They're okay there, although they're going to be stuck there until next turn. That was 1. So now we go back to Japan. They only have 5 impulse points left. And we have Miyaki here. Miyaki, who has a reduced rifle squad and a rifle squad and a light machine gun. So that would be 2, 3. They can only move like basically 1 spot. So we're going to go 1, 2, and we're in the Palm de Brie. No, we can't do that actually. Yes, we can. That's clear terrain. So they are here now, and they're gonna stop. So they have moved. And now, range-wise, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're in range of these guys, and they can shoot at them, and vice versa. I probably should have. Palm Debris gives them a +2 defense. Their firepower is only a 4. You know what? We're going to opportunity fire on them anyway. We might as well. So that'll knock the Americans down to 3. The Japanese are currently at 4 now. So here we have a 4 firepower. They have a defense of 3 with a +2 of the Palm Debris. So it's going to be -1 column. It's a -1 on the roll for moving as well. And they rolled a 12. 12 -1 on the -1 charge is a casualty and broken, but broken does not apply because it's Japanese. But the -1 does, so that's going to actually kill this rifle squad, which is going to be another casualty, and we have to roll to see if the leader survives, and so they need a roll of 4 or higher again. So we'll do this. And they rolled a 1, so Sergeant Miyaki is also killed. That's another casualty. They're up to 18 now. And the rolling for the Americans has just really been strong in this scenario. I mean, you would not expect this. I'm rolling 10s, 11s, 12s all the time on fire attacks and 2 hit numbers, and that's something you're not going to expect, and you should not expect, and you're not going to get all that often. So let's move our other tank. Let's turn this so it's the right way. So that's 1, 2, 3. We're on the road again. So let's go. That's 3, 4, 5. And we'll slap a moved on him. That is another one down. So they're down to 12. The Japanese are at 4. So now we'll let the Japanese move. Let's move Sergeant Nagashima. Maybe we should go around. The problem is we're running out of time here. They only have a 3 move. Oh, this is a tank killer. It's a tank killer. So let's see if we can get around this. That would be 1. And palms are only 1 as well. 1, 2, 3. And they could fire their machine gun, so they will. So that's going to be 1. And then we'll get a... that will make the machine gun used. It's got a firepower of 3. And we're tracing line of sight through... the palm debris is a degrading. And they're in a degrading, and the wreck also degrades. So they're gonna make this shot here. It's gonna be a -2 on the firepower, which is just a 1. So that's just a 1. Yeah, it's just a 1. And they're going to get a defense of 4. So that's a -3. I don't know. We're gonna be testing this Americans roll well theory real tough here. So it's only a 7 with the in the -3. A 7 is nothing. So yeah, so that was not a particularly wise attack. All right, I did do that. Okay, so that's all done. That was another impulse for the Americans as well as the Japanese. That cost them 2, right? No, 1. So they have 3 left. It's the Americans' move. They're at 10 impulse points. Let's move our Stuarts here. I forgot to take this off as well. So we have our 2 Stuarts. We're going to move 1 of them. And we can go 1, 1.5, and stop. And 5 from here. Well, no. Let's see. We're going to go 2.5. We're going to stop here. They're going to fire at us because we just popped into their view. And they have opportunity fire. They can't group fire because they don't have a leader. So one of the TKs will fire at the TKs, I guess, will fire at our Stuart. The range is only 2. So their 2 hit number is a 7. And they miss. So that was quick. And the bad luck for the Japanese continues. So let's just put this on the bottom one. That costs them an impulse point, so they're down to 2. And it's now the Japanese turn. We're going to move our sapper up to be in the same hex, and he's going to jump on one of these tanks. And that will be a move for him. And that leaves them with 1 impulse point, but now they'll be able to have rolling cover. And yeah, all right. I didn't mark Sergeant Nagashima, but they moved, so they need to be marked as well. Okay, so go back to the Americans. They are at 9. We'll move our other Stuart, or maybe we should just fire. We're going to fire this Stuart first. We'll fire this guy. So he's going to fire at the top TK there, or the bottom one, the one that fired at him, I guess, right? Turnabout is fair play. So the firing for the Stuart at a range of 3. The 2 hit number is a 7. We get a 5. So he also misses. That knocked the Americans down to 9. The Japanese are at 1. They're at 1. Let's take our squad here that has a light machine gun. They'll go 1, 2, 3 to here. We already fired our machine gun, so they can't be fired upon. That's the last impulse point for the Japanese, unfortunately for them. So they're done for the turn. Back to the Americans. They're at 9. So we'll move our other Stewart. 1, 1.5, 2.5. Same thing. He's going to move there. He's going to stop. I'm not going to put a move on him yet because we're going to fire. With our next impulse, which will bring us down to 7, we're going to do the same thing. 2 hit number is 7. Got another 5, so they also are unsuccessful. And we are down to 7 now. So this guy is moving up to get there. I guess I'm going to just pass the rest of my impulses, and we're going to end the turn here, and we're going to go to turn 2. So it turns out that we don't really need a hold to do anything extra before we start turn 2. Nobody needs to be rallied. There is no smoke, no scenario rolls, no bogged units, nothing like that. So we're just going to roll our 4 dice to check for who has initiative. The US gets a 4, Japan gets a 7, so Japan wins the roll. Japan gets to roll all 4 again for their impulse points, and they actually do really well this time. They are going to take a -3, but they did roll a 19. So 19 minus 3 is 16. So 16 is a good roll for them. That gives them a lot of juice for this turn, which they're going to need because they're running out of time and their units are pretty far back here. So now we'll roll for the US. They roll 3. And they get 10 plus 2 is 12. So the US has 12. Japan has 16. Japan has the initiative. They will go first. First thing we're going to do is we are going to try to knock out this one of these tanks, because ultimately we need to get Arimoto or these guys down here. Somebody needs to get to this because that's our first objective, or control hex rather, to win this thing from the Japanese side. So this isn't the best tank in the world to be shooting with, and perhaps we might even want to consider actually using the Chi-Ha to do it. So perhaps we'll just go with that. We'll have the Chi-Ha do it. But first we're going to take this one and we're going to use it as rolling cover to move. So the way rolling cover works is essentially they get to move, the squad will get to move. It's a sapper squad. They get to move with the tank, and they get a +1 to their defense. And so that'll help them close in on Quinn's position here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Well, let's stop. Let's go. Let's say we're here, because as soon as we move, the Americans are going to opportunity fire. Now, this is considered a group move. You don't need a leader for this one, but it still costs you 2. So that's going to knock the Japanese down to 14 impulse points. The Americans will have to counterfire. They will do so with our Stewart tank here on top. The range is 3, 1, 2, 3. The 2 hit for that is going to be a 7. So we will roll, and we get a 7, so that's good. Now we have to roll figure out the firepower here. So it's a Chi-Ha, their armor, their front defense is a 3. The Stewart's firepower at that distance is a 3, so we're in the 0 column. We don't get any, we do get a +1 on the roll for having, actually we don't, because there is no leader there, I'm sorry. So let's roll here. We rolled an 8, and we don't get anything extra, so that would be broken, but that doesn't apply to the Japanese, so that is a fired for the first Stewart. And they didn't hit, so they can continue to advance, so they move up again. Now we can have the second Stewart also attack, so we'll do the same thing over again. And they get a 7, so they also get a 2 hit. We have the same number. It's in the 0 column. It's a 7, so that's going to be nothing again. So both these tanks have now fired. And now we will stop here, which is 3. So that was 2 impulse points for them, and the Americans spent 2 as well with 2 opportunity fires. So it is now 14-10. We go to the American side, and both these units have now fired once. So perhaps they should fire again to try and knock this guy out. Okay, so they'll have to fire separately. So we will fire the top unit. Again, we're adjacent, so we're actually going to get a +1 firepower this time. But we still need to roll the 7 for the 2 hit. And we get an 8, so they do hit. So now on the firepower, we're actually in the 1 column because we are adjacent to them. And we rolled a 12. So a 12 in the 1 column is going to destroy the tank. So when you destroy the tank, you have to check for collateral damage for the carried unit. So because this guy's hit, he's going to be, actually it's not him, it's this guy here. He's going to turn into a wreck because he's been destroyed. He has been destroyed. We have to roll for the sapper, and we use the -4 column on the ICT and unmodified. So basically, unless I roll a 12, he's going to be fine. And we rolled a 7, so the sapper is fine. He does have to get a moved marker, though. I did forget to do that. So one of these is now used. So we'll just put it on the bottom, that the one on the bottom is used. One on the top is still only fired and can fire again, which he will. Okay, so that was 1 impulse point for the Americans. That makes them have 9 left. The Japanese have 14. Japanese have 14. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this guy do an assault move into this hex here. He's got a 6. He's going to be attacking 4, 7, 8. They're going to be 6 attacking 8. But they need to do something because they are in a world of hurt. So I'm going to drop that there. We're going to put a melee marker on here to designate that they are going to be assaulted. Now, they haven't even fired their machine gun, but I believe that locks them up. So by doing so, that should, I hope, make Lieutenant Aramoto able to do something. In the meantime, that's only 1 impulse point, brings them down to 13. It's the Americans' turn. We're going to take our Stuart. We're going to fire at this other Chiha up here and try and knock it out. So the distance is 1, 2, 3, 4. At 4, we're still in the 2-hit 7 range, so we're going to roll for that. And we got a 4, so no hit. That will make him used. So I'm just going to take my used marker here and put that on both now. And that's another impulse down for the Americans. They're at 8. Now the Japanese, we have Lieutenant Aramoto here. And I believe, let's see. Well, that's degrading. That's a building. So I think he can get to this. Pretty sure he can get to this hex now. So he's going to move 1. So he's going to sit in here, and they're going to flip the control here to Japanese. That was a 1 move, so that brings them down to 12. Back to the Americans. And so this is going to be interesting now. Actually, they should have fired, but they'll fire now. So they have a firepower of 4. And their defense is going to be 1 for the structure and 3, I believe, yes. So their defense is a 4. So it's 4 on 4. The range is only 2. They're not adjacent. It's not melee. No moving fire. No attached leader. So it's just in the 0 column. We rolled a 10, and a 10 in the 0 column is actually a casualty and a shaken. But they don't have a, they can't be shaken, but they will take the casualty. And then we have to roll to see if Lieutenant Aramoto is also injured. Okay, so they roll 1d6. If it's a 6, he would have been killed. It's not, so he's fine. But that is 1 more casualty point for Japan. They're at 19 now. So they get that, and they get a fired. The Japanese still have 12 impulse points, but we need to be smart about how we do this because we need to move some guys up. So we're going to take Sergeant Hasibi here, and he's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. Put a moved on him. That leaves them with 11. Now the Americans can move. We'll take our Sherman, and he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. These guys can shoot. Actually, they can't because of the building. 5. 6. Now we're going to move our rifle squad here. 1, 2, 3. Americans are on 7. The Japanese are on 10. Back to the Americans. Now we can do our move. Now we can do our fire. So we know what it is. We're going to roll for a 2-hit first. It needs to be a 7. It's a 9. Okay, now we'll roll. We're in column 6, and we get a -1. And this time we got a 2. So again, it's nothing. So ultimately, it didn't change anything that I did it out of order, which is fine. So back to the Japanese, who are sitting at 10 right now. And we'll have our sapper move up. 1, 2. Hang on. These are only 1. 1, 2. Yeah, it's not going to... I'm trying to figure out if I can get them in a spot where they can go Banzai on the next turn. 1, 2. That now, whoops, he's reduced. That moves them down to 9. So they have 9. The Americans have 6. We go back to the Americans here. Let's move our other Sherman. And we're going to have him come through here, I guess. Now, the Palms, that costs them 2. And his movement factor is a 6. So 2, 4, 6. And from here, he can take a shot at this Chiha on our next impulse. So we'll leave that there. That's now 5 for the Americans. The Japanese have 9. We're going to move this guy. 1, 2, 3. That's 8 for the Japanese. The Americans are at 5. This guy's going to fire. The range is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At 7, that's a 7 to hit and a 6 firepower for the Sherman. And he does not hit. So he's used, and we did not take a shot. So that is 4 left for the Americans. Japan's on 8. This Chiha, his range actually out to 10. He would need an 8 for a 2-hit. But we're going to take a shot at it. So let's see. The Japanese are going to try to get an 8 here. See if he can hit this Sherman. And he gets a 7, so that's a no. So that's a fired on him. They're down to 7. Let's have this guy move. 1, 2. 1, 2. They will fire. It's going to take a -1 for the degraded line of sight, but they're going to take an opportunity fire, which will make them used. Well, actually, no. No. We won't do that. We're going to move because I want to do an assault move on here, which is dicey, but we're going to take a crack at it. So they go from here. They went 1, 2. We'll go here. And they'll take a shot. So they're going to get them moved. And that moves them down to 6. The Americans have 4. This guy's going to fire. It's just a rifle squad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's in range. His range is 6. Firepower 4. Defense 3. In the open. So it's going to be in the 1 column. And we're going to roll. We got a 7. And there's no adjustments because they didn't move or anything. But a 7 in the 1 column is a broken. Doesn't apply to the Japanese, so they'll just get a fired marker. Down to 3 for the Americans. Now the Japanese, Sergeant Nagashima here will move. He's got 1 unit. They've got 2 there. Okay, so we're going to have to kind of go around them, but we can do that. 1, 2, 3, and shell holes are 2. So he can't move into there. He'd have to move up here. So he's going to move there and stop. And that leaves them with 5. The Americans will now go. He's going to fire again. We'll do the same thing. We're in the 1 column. We got a 6, so that's going to be nothing. So he's now used. Americans are down to 2 now. Okay, the Japanese are at 5. So let's move our, let's move our Chiha. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he'll go like that. To 4. The Americans are at 2. Sergeant Avila is going to fire now. This does not affect line of sight. We have a rifle squad here with a bazooka. We're not going to use the bazooka, but we are going to use the rifle squad. So it's 4 again against 3. There's no degradation of line of sight, so it's in the 1 column, but we're going to get a +1 on the roll for the attached leader. And we get a 7 with +1, that becomes an 8, and an 8 in the +1 column is a casualty. So they take a casualty. And the benefit of that actually is that pushes them up to 20 now, 20 casualty points for the Japanese. And 20 casualty points will be a -4 on their die roll. Okay, so that leaves the Americans with just 1 impulse point. Japanese turn. We will have our Chiha here take another shot at the Sherman. Why not? So we know the range is 6. They need they need an 8 to hit. They get a 7, so no hit. So he's used up. He can fire again, so we might as well. So we have the same thing we had before. We're in the 1 column with a +1 from our leader. We roll an 8 with +1 becomes a 9. That is going to be another casualty that will kill this rifle squad and give them 21 casualty points, and the light machine gun will stay there on the field unused. They get marked as used. That leaves the Americans with no impulse points. The Japanese are at 3, so they're going to get 3 shots in a row here if they have things to do, which they do. Our Take here, the top one, the Take, is going to attack. The range is 2. He's attacking the Stuart there. At 2, his 2-hit range number is a 7. That's a miss. So that's 1. We'll take a second shot. That one is a hit. So this will be... actually, we have 2 tanks, so we'll just put fired on there for now. Each tank has taken a shot. So his firepower at that range is a 2. The Stuart's defense is a 2 as well, I believe. Yep. So we're in the 0 column. And a 2 is nothing, so no damage. And that's 2. So they have 1 left. So we're going to fire 1 more here. And it's a 7, so he does have a chance. We're in the 0 column again, and it's a 4, so nothing. So we'll just put used on here, even though it doesn't really matter. So that before we move on to turn number 1, which sounds weird in my head, but it's the last turn of the game. We have to resolve this melee right here in the middle. So I almost forgot about it, but I did not. So let's take care of this. So we have our melee. On the one side, the Japanese, they have a firepower of 6 and a defense of 3. Melee is fairly straightforward. So Lieutenant Quinn here will give the defense of the Americans a 1. Add it to the 4 and the 3. So that's 7, 8 with Quinn. And their offense or attack firepower is 4 and 3. So it's a 7. +2 is 9, and +2 to the 6 is 8. So it's 8 against 8 on defense. 8 firepower for the Japanese against 8 defense for the Americans. And the flip side is 9 offense for the Americans and 3 defense for the Japanese. So we're going to roll this off. The way melee works is you basically roll, you roll each against each unit involved in the melee. So the Japanese will roll 3 times because there are 3 units in here. The Americans will only roll once because there's only 1 Japanese unit involved. And at the end, if both sides are still in good order, and the only way the Japanese won't be in good order is if they're killed. So if both sides are in good order or have at least 1 unit in good order, the melee will continue into turn number 1. So we'll roll the American side first. We get a 5, and a 5 on the 6 column is basically nothing. It's broken, but As I mentioned, the Japanese cannot be broken. So now we'll roll the Japanese. They are an attack of 8 against a defense of 8, which is a 0. So much rougher road to haul. But they do roll an 11, and an 11 is an elimination. So they kill Quinn, which gives the United States rather a casualty point. They're up to 3. So Quinn has been killed. Now they roll against the rifle squad and get a 7. A 7 on the 0 is potential shaken. So we'll roll a gut check. Gut check number for this scenario is 7. They roll a 5, so they are actually shaken. Here's my shaken. So I've got my shaken ready. I'll just drop it there for the moment because we still have to do the machine gun. Now we'll do the machine gun. Another 7. So both the machine gun and the rifle squad are shaken, which means they are not in good order, which means they have to retreat. And they're going to retreat into these palms right here. Oops. And they were in foxholes, but that doesn't matter for melee, because obviously the Japanese are in the foxholes with them. That's what melee means. So they're going to take that hex, and that is going to end this turn. And we are going to go to turn number 2. Okay, so we're ready for turn number 2. The first thing we're going to do here is roll to see if we can rally our rifle squad and our machine gun crew from that had to retreat after being attacked by our sapper unit. So let us roll for that. So to rally, basically you roll 2d6. If you roll 7 or higher, you rally a shaken unit. It would be 9 if they were broken. So 11, that means the rifle squad is rallied. Now let's do the machine gun crew. They also get a 7, so the shaking goes away. We are going to move on to the initiative roll. The Japanese have a 5, the Americans have a 7, so the Americans win initiative. We'll roll for Japanese impulse points. Not a good roll. They get 2, 6, 8, and they're going to subtract 4 from that. So they're only going to have 4. This is going to be a really short turn, it looks like, from the Japanese side. Now for the Americans, they get to roll 3 dice. And they get 6, 8. So they have 8. Actually, they get plus 2, so they have 10. So 10 for the Americans, 4 for the Japanese. We have our rifle squad right here. They're going to move. These guys will fire at them, but they're going to move here. And if they can avoid being shaken or broken, they're going to assault move into this hex, set up an assault, and try to take that back. That would also preempt Lieutenant Arimoto declaring Banzai, which would lock in this guy, these guys, because it chains. With that in mind, we're going to move here. They're going to take opportunity fire against that. So they have a firepower of 2 with additional 2 for their light machine gun. And so that's 4 against 4. They do get 1 bonus for being in palm, so it's 4 against 5. So they'll be rolling on the -1. No, it's a 0. It's a 0 because the terrain and the +1 for the adjacent target basically cancel each other out. They have a 5 defense against a 4 offense, +1 for adjacency. So they're rolling in the 0 column. So the 0 column's got plenty. If they roll anything better than a 6, they're going to stop them from being able to start their melee. And they rolled an 11, which is even better than stopping them because it actually eliminates them. So they're going to kill this unit. That moves the Americans up to 5 casualty points, which ultimately doesn't mean a lot at the moment, but could mean a lot if we did need to go to a turn 0. So that moves the Japanese down to 3 impulse points. The Americans are at 9, and we go to the Japanese side now, and so now we can declare our Banzai. So basically, you start putting markers on units that will Banzai. So Arimoto gets 1. Our sapper gets 1 because he's within Arimoto's range. The sergeant here is also within Arimoto's range, and within his range both of these crew counters. They're not worth much, but they're worth something. And that's the extent of it, because these guys back here are too far back, so they cannot participate. They could declare their own, but you can only do it on the first impulse of a turn. So they would be able to do it in turn 0 if we do go to a turn 0. So once you declare, it's allowed to move its full allotment of movement points, and they have to attack the closest Americans. So starting at the top here, the sapper is going to charge here, and I'll just put we're going to leave that there. I'll know it's a melee. These guys get to move as well. So now the Americans can still fire on them. So they're going to move 1 and then 2, and now that they're in the clear, they can take an opportunity fire at them. So they will, of course. So they have a 4, and they have a bazooka, which would add 1, but they're not in a structure, so they can't actually use the bazooka. So it's just a 4 firepower against a 3 defense, and it's open terrain. They're not adjacent. So it's a +1 column attack. That'll move the Americans down to 8. The Japanese are down to 2. So we'll roll. And we get a 7, and a 7 on the 1 column is going to be broken, which does nothing to the Japanese. So they will continue. So that was 2, 3, 4, and then they're allowed the adjacent move into the next hex. So I'm going to make a giant stack here. Now, the problem is this won't actually win them the game. Even if they win this one, they've already captured this hex, assuming the Americans can't move somebody into it, which they probably won't be able to. 1, 2, 3. Well, they could, but that would leave that open. So the only way the Japanese win is to capture all 3 hexes. So they need this position here that's held by Sergeant Savage, and they're not going to be able to get to that. I'm almost completely certain. So these guys can also move. They have a movement factor of 3. 1, 2, 3. These guys can fire at them, so they will. And they have a firepower of 4. No leader. They are in clear terrain. So it's going to be 4 against 3, right? Their defense, yes. Their defense is a 3. So we're rolling on the same column as we just did. And get a 5, which is going to be nothing. So they're stopped here, basically. We're going to put moved. And we'll put a fired on this rifle squad. And so now the Americans are at 7. And the Japanese will continue here. This guy will also charge at the nearest American, which I guess is this one. But it would be the next closest, which is that one. But he's not going to get there on this turn. Now his movement is a 4. It's the tank killer. 1, 2, 3. Now as soon as he's here, he's ultimately going here. But as soon as he's here, he'll fire at him because he's 4 away. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 away. We have a rifle squad and a bazooka. Again, we can't use the bazooka in this case. So we're still on a 4-3. Actually, no, it's a 4-4. So we're in the 0 column. And it's a 5. And a 5 in the 0 column is nothing. So again, we get changed over to moved. And that's the end of their turn. Now our last tank killer squad here, he's going to head in that direction as well. 1, 2, 3. Make a move. So we're going to have 2 melees to take care of. Here and here. Assuming they win this one, they would actually have 2 of the 3 control hexes, but not all 3 control hexes. Going back around now, it's the Americans' turn. They have 6 impulse because they've actually, I need to put a fired on there as well. They've fired several times, so they're down to 6 impulse points. We have our Sherman. Let's move our Sherman and go 1, 2, 3. We'll stop here, point down. And Sergeant Boone here is going to fire his machine gun at these guys. So the Sherman's machine gun is a 5. It has a range of 4. So he's in range. Five firepower against, I believe these guys are, yep, they're tank killers. So it's going to be in the 1 column. And he moved, so he's going to take a -1, but he also has a leader, which is a +1, so they cancel out. So we're looking in the 1 column with no modifiers, and we rolled an 8, and an 8 in the 1 column is broken, so no effect. So you can see the strength here if you haven't noticed it before. You can certainly see the strength here of the Japanese not needing to take a gut check. So let's move. So we'll have our tanks here. We have our 2 tanks here. Our TK. I'm still not 100% sure how to pronounce that. They're going to attack our Stuarts. So we'll just do, since they can't group fire, just the top against the top, right? The distance is only 2. Their firepower is a 2, but they need a 7 on their 2 hit. They get a 7. So that leaves them with 1 impulse point, by the way. So now their firepower of 2 against the Stuart's armor, which is a 3. Actually, no, I'm sorry, it's a 2. So we're going to roll. We get a 7 on the 0 column. A 7 is 7 is shaken. So we'll do a gut check, and they pass it. So no effect. We'll have our Sherman here take a shot at the Chiha. So with this range of only 3, the Sherman's firepower is going to be a 7, and they're going to have a 7 as a 2-hit number. And they get the 7. So it's a 7 against the Chiha's armor of 3. So we're in the 4 column. And we roll a 10, and a 10 on the 4 column in the vehicle combat table is a destroyed. So he is destroyed. Now we have to roll for crew survival. And we get a 2. On a roll of 6, they survive. So they did not survive. They are killed. That's 2 more casualties for the Japanese. They're up to 23. Back to the Japanese. This is their last move. They can't get to this. If they could get to this tank, the shell holes cost 2 movement points. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no way to get adjacent to that tank, because they could totally get up there and throw a satchel charge in there and use the tank killer ability. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Sherman will take its, Sherman's going to fire at them with its machine gun. So it's 5 against a defense of 4. It rolled a 6. They're on the +1 column. That's going to be nothing. So they're used. They moved. The Japanese are out of impulse points. The Americans are down to 2. So there's not a whole lot left for them to do. We can have our Sherman, or Stuart rather, fire. We have our Sherman up here that could also fire again if they wish to. So we'll have our Sherman again fire at this guy to try and weaken the Banzai, I guess, in theory. So again, it's a 5. Their defense is a 4. So we're in the 1 column. The -1 and +1 for the leader cancel out. We rolled a 7. A 7 in the 1 column is a broken, which again does not apply. So they are used as well. And then we move on. That leaves the Americans with 1. The Japanese are done. So we'll have one of our Stuarts fire, I guess, at this TK or TK here. Their armor in the front is a 2. Their firepower at that range is a 3. They have a 7 to hit number. They get a 10, so they hit. And a 7 on the 1 column on the VCT is a broken, which does not apply. So we'll put a fired on there just for the sake of following the procedure. And that will be the end of the turn because everybody's out of impulse points. And now we need to resolve our melee. So we'll start up here with our Banzai charge. And this is going to be somewhat similar to before. They have a 6 + 2 is 8 for firepower. Their defense is a 3. The Americans have the offense of 7 and a defense also of 7. Well, the offense is actually 9. So it's 9-3. We'll do that first. We'll do the Americans first. 9 versus 3. We're in the 6th column. A 7 on the 6th column is casualty and shaken. So the casualty won't apply, but the shaken will. I mean, vice versa. The casualty will apply and the shaken will not. So they're going to stay in good order. And so we have what is this? 7 defense against an 8 offense, because it's simultaneous, so we have to use the pre-reduced. And so a 7 versus a 7. No, it's 9 versus 7. So we're in the +2 column. I'm sorry, 8 versus 7. We're in the +1 column. We rolled a 7. So the top unit has to take a gut check to avoid being shaken. They pass it. Now the machine gun fails it. So the machine gun is going to have to retreat and be shaken. So he's going to head here. Actually, he could just jump in with his buddies. So he's going to go over here. And he is shaken. So he's shaken. These two stay in the hex for a second round. Next turn, if there is one. Now we have to do this guy. So we have a leader, which will add 1 to the defense. So they have 4 offense and 4 defense. Well, 6 offense with the +2 and 4 defense. The American defense is 5 and their offense is 4. So it's 6 offense against a 4 defense. So we'll do that first. In the 2 column, a 9 is casualty and shaken. So the casualty applies to Aramoto, and he's a single step because he's an officer. So yeah, I mean, he's identical on both sides, but he's a single step because he's a single person counter. So he's going to actually be killed, and then we'll roll for the rifle squad, and we rolled a 12, and that's going to kill the rifle squad as well. So we know this Banzai charge failed, but we have to see what happens to the Americans here. So their firepower is 4 plus 2 is 6. The defense is 5. So they're in the +1 for the Japanese. And they rolled a 9, which is a pretty good roll. So a 9 is going to be a casualty and a shaken. So they're going to kill a Vila too. And then we'll roll for the rifle squad and get a 6. And a 6 is a broken. Yeah. So we need to roll. We rolled a 10, so he's not broken. So he's going to stick here. That is, well, I'll just leave that out. It doesn't really matter. They took 2 more casualty points for the Japanese. That actually pushes them to 25. And this Banzai goes away because they're dead. And Avila's dead. That gives the Americans 6 casualty points. And that's going to end it. Now, there is a rule for extending the game by adding an additional 0 turn roll. So what we would do here is we would each roll 1 die. So I'm just going to roll them together since I'm the only player. And I rolled a 12, which would mean, because if it's 7 or higher, you get an extra turn. Now, I'm not going to play another turn because this video is extremely long. You've gotten the point. I don't think they're going to actually be able to capture both hexes. Like this guy here could get into that hex, but this guy could not get to this hex. So they're not going to be able to take both of them. So I'm just going to call it a victory for the Americans, who retained control of 2 of the 3 control hexes. And that is not a Japanese victory. Therefore, it is an American victory. So there you have it. And once again, I forgot to use the card. I do this all the time. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. That would have probably helped for sure in one of these Banzai Banzai battles. It would have perhaps helped here. In fact, it probably would have helped a great deal there. But they also lost their units, so they wouldn't have been able to take possession. It would have just been additional casualties on the American side, and we would have had both sides probably wiped out, which still would not have won the scenario for the Japanese. So ultimately, this would not have been a decisive miscue on my part, but it is a miscue on my part, and I apologize for that. So, as always, thank you for watching. My name is Joe. Please consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing. But even if you don't, I hope you got something out of watching the video. And we'll come back and check out some future stuff. Flying Pig February will continue. Night of Man is up next. But that's going to do it. This has been Hexed Encountered. My name's Joe, and happy gaming.